Welcome to Scars Above.
Hello, Dr. Ward. This used to be a beautiful world. Until it was destroyed.
My head! Did the metahedron bring us here?
Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome as we sit down and have a chat on this lovely, charming, surprisingly fun little game that I have been having a check out of. And indeed, thank you to Prime Matter for sponsoring this video and for inviting me to play. And if you end up liking the look of what's going on here, well, you can get your hands on it with the link down below. That said then, it has been a real pleasure getting stuck in to this, what I'm going to call Science Space Souls. Now, don't get me wrong, there is some rough edges here, and there is a bit of missing polish. It's no AAA game, but that said, it's not priced as one either, and what you get is more than worth the cost of admission. This is the debut game from Madhead Games, and really, I am incredibly impressed at what's on offer here. On a core level, the ideas on display and the intrigue that has been created in this alien world, the mystery of what's going on, the solving of it as you fight your way through monstrous mutated creatures while learning about them and adapting their very biology to become your own weaponry as you progress is really a wonderful loop. The closest comparison outside of, the generic space science souls would be something like Remnant, a shooting-focused game with your classic dodge roll, with your bosses, with your bonfire-esque checkpoints that refill all your supplies, but also respawn the enemies that act as your little markers of progress as you go through the world. And basically, if you want something that gives you that, oh, yes, okay, when you make it through a particularly hard level or beat a particularly hard boss, that kind of Souls-like essence, this definitely is found there, but it also comes carried with really quite a fun mystery. The story, I found myself really hooked, wanting to know more, and I suppose here at the start, before we get into the nitty-gritty, I will give this game the biggest compliment one can give a game, which is simply that A, it really is fun, and B, I very much plan to complete it post, well, telling you guys about it in this little spotlight. And that's not something that happens often with me. And I think it's because it scratches an itch that I really like here, and it almost feels a little bit Half-Life-y in how it begins, and Half-Life is my second favorite game of all time. Everything is fine. A scientific mission to examine and discover the purpose and reason for being of a mysterious alien object craft hanging above Earth. Of course, you get the few moments of banter with the crew as you get to grips with everything, and then it inevitably goes catastrophically wrong, and you find yourself in this alien landscape constantly being bombarded with horrific creatures covered in such deadly specialized adaptations. But before we even start handling all that, we get an initial glimpse at the crafting system. And by crafting, I don't mean you pick up random loot and objects and then open a menu and choose what you want to make. The way that upgrades and new weaponry and new gadgets are presented to you is a really fun process. The idea of discovery as the actual scientist that you're playing at is really exemplified and promoted, and you really feel it. You play as Kate, and she really does analyze everything as she goes along. You might be wondering, but you said it's like shooting, right? So you gotta zap the aliens and stuff, but if she's just a scientist, how's she doing that? That's weird. Well, no! The game's got you covered!
Well, that doesn't sound...
It's working. I'm feeding the excess power directly to the scanner. I haven't seen you shoot like this since the college rifle championship.
Yeah, I also remember you taking first place from me.
And don't you forget it.
Exactly! Say no more! Expert alien marksman material right there! Now, you have to, of course, give a little bit of suspension of disbelief, and at this point I should note that the actual voice acting, the performances, are really quite good, or at least they certainly don't take you out of it. Obviously, Kate will talk a lot about everything you encounter, and it's done very competently, and you find yourself quite interested in what she's actually worked out or discovered. And indeed, the sound design in general is really well done, and there's not much I can really point my finger at and go, it's very much one of the stronger points of this experience. But as I was saying, look, you have these moments where you have to do a series of examinations, or you have to work something out, you have to find the right spot to press on the area that you are in practicality, but the actual aesthetic of it, how it's represented, how it comes across, really works. We get these little bits of this gun that will eventually be coming together called Vera. We head over to the computer, make sure the frequency's all good, pop over to the left, do a little bit of fiddling and tweaking, snap it all together. Oh, and now we've got a working electricity zapper. And that's just a really cool process that's so much more engaging than just, I found a new electric gun. And that really kind of appeals to me. And as you go through the world, you will find yourself really wanting to kill things just so you can scan them. I love games with a focus on animals and biology and ecology and, you know, giving them an actual raison d'etre. And the idea that in this, whenever you discover a new plant or a new hostile enemy, on the first time of defeating them, you can scan them. This gives you a bit of helpful information about them. It also contributes to the skill tree level up system with the knowledge. Every time you reach enough knowledge, you get a new skill point to spend, and the tree itself is quite a compelling one, with both a more human-y side and a more alien side, for want of a better way of describing it, and you slowly build your way up as you go through the game. Anyway, to bring it back to the scanning of them, you also unlock the actual enemy's model in your log that you can look at and get a bit more information about them. And this is just like a flavor thing more than anything, but that really works for me. It really, really does. I love that we get to walk around and have this kind of analytical mindset on everything.
Log entry. Overdeveloped mandible is filled with razor-sharp teeth. Extremities are very strong, allowing the creature to close the distance to its prey quickly.
Like finding this random bug thing attached to the wall that looks quite, oh, okay, and it's secreting this cryogenic fluid that's freezing a lake that is filled with flesh-eating leeches. So hey, if we can somehow work out how it's doing that and weaponize it, we can freeze water and walk over the leeches. You know, in practice, it's nothing groundbreaking. Freezing the surface of water to do something or walk across it to progress is a tale as old as time in a game. But achieving that via the presentation of we are literally analyzing the internal organs of this alien insect so we can actually trace how it's producing this liquid so that we can then synthetically recreate that process in a weaponized format, just knowing that's how it's come about suddenly makes the entire mechanic so much more, yeah, okay, very cool, and I can really get behind that. So that kind of leads me in then to the very much rock, paper, scissors-y nature of the combat here. It's very straightforward in how it initially comes across. You have an electric gun that zaps when enemies are wet. It zaps harder. When they're in a pond, the zap spreads out because the electricity spreads out. You've got a fire gun that struggles to set people on fire if they're wet, that can ignite flammable liquids. You have an ice gun that can freeze enemies solid and freeze the water. You have a series of consumables that cost fiber that you pick up around the place, and they translate to your supply of health potions, your supply of anti-debuffs like poison, your supply of batteries. The batteries power your gadgets. There's 5 in total. I've unlocked 3 of them, and they are fun little extras like a shield that blocks a couple hits and prevents you from being sent flying thing, which gives you a bit of breathing space because you really can't take a lot of damage. You gotta think about your fights here. You have a incendiary liquid grenade that you can then set aflame with the fire gun. You have a hologram decoy that causes enemies to run over to it, so you can set up some big finishes. But all of this is tools in your arsenal, building blocks to pattern in a way that works for the situation. An easy, simple example is this big bruiser of an enemy here that likes to, well, punch the hell out of you. He's got a big glowing red orb in his chest, and, well, as you might guess, that means shoot me with fire! And if you shoot it with fire, it will explode in flames, rendering him very much on the dead side of things. But the idea of orange weak glowing spot you shoot with the orange gun, again, in essence, if I just say it like that, is like, oh, whoa, God, whew, calm down there. That's a little bit, I'm not sure if I can handle that. But the presentation of it, how you achieved getting the fire gun, how this creature likes to cover itself in rock, and it literally holds its arm over the weak spot that it knows it has to protect it, so you have to bait out an attack to reveal that organ it has to then set it ablaze to actually take it down, because otherwise it's near impossible. Yeah, that suddenly starts to build up and be really quite fun. Of course, you've got your rolling around the place to dodge attacks, to iframe through them, and you've got your classic sprint. And there is, of course, bosses to be getting on with, and they feel really quite, well, intense. So I don't want to spoil too much, so I will just show you a chapter 1 boss that you'll get to very quickly, but it really exemplifies the kind of flow here. We have this freaking mutant deer looking thing, and, well, as you can see, it's got your orange spots, you shoot them, sets it on fire, which then causes its mouth to open, dropping its electric sac, which you then shoot with the electric gun. Oh, what's that? Now it's mad with you, it's now spewing leeches into the water. We have to quickly get the ice gun out to make a platform to stand on, otherwise the leeches will get us, while dodging all of its attacks, while keeping healthy with the health stim, while keeping protected with the shield, and then repeating the cycle until we manage to beat it. Every individual element is a very kind of by-the-numbers gamey element, but it's the interaction between them, the presentation of them, and how it actually layers in the wider scope of you are a scientist trying to scientifically work out what the hell has happened to your crew, why you are here, what is going on in this world, why you're seeing alien space ghosts of dead aliens that want you to go hunt down this curator that looks like he's shaping up to be the big bad of the game, and it really does just kind of appeal to me on an intrinsic level. I don't know what it is, but the simple flavor of, I have killed vicious deadly animal, and now my scientist character will tell me how the vicious deadly animal is vicious deadly on a biological level. Oh, yes, there we go, that hits the spot. And it really does hit the spot. I imagine there will be a fourth gun as you continue. There's been a few little hints of, oh, if only we had acid to melt through something, so I imagine the green gun will complete the quartet, and then you have all your options. There's been some decent enemy variety, and nothing has felt like, oh, that shouldn't have hit me. Doesn't feel like there's been any kind of hitbox bugs or janky enemy animations or attacks. Of course, nothing is like insane, like, whoa, my god, but at the same time, what is here is really done with obvious care and passion, and again, for a debut game, for a first time outing here, there is some really strong displays of potential, and it really not only makes me want to, again, as I said, finish this game, but keep an eye on Madhead and see what they come up with next. I want to know what lies at the end of this journey through this alien landscape. I want to know why they're experimenting on these animals and mutating them. I want to find the rest of the crew. I want to know what the deal with the custodian is. I want Kate to tell me more interesting things about stuff she sees while we're killing said stuff. That's just great. So, with all that in mind then, ladies and gentlemen, what you have here is a competent Souls-like shooter with a focus on the science aspect of understanding this alien world around you and using it to generate the tools you need to combat it in a very this specifically counters this way that layers together to form some quite intense and satisfying encounters as you explore from a bonfire to bonfire-esque system that really does scratch that itch. And you can handle animations not being more than, I would say, serviceable. You can handle it not being the prettiest game in the world, though certainly it doesn't look bad. You can handle a few to their super core simplistic mechanics. If how they're presented is really fun, well then you will definitely enjoy this world and solving the mystery of what's actually going the hell on here. And if that sounds like it's something that's your cup of tea, well yeah, as I said, the link is down below and I would love to know how you guys get on. For now then, like if you have enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, and consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below. Oh goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.